What's up? I'm Drew Paul Bell, and in this video, what I want to talk about is when to quit architecture school. Actually, we're going to try to keep this a little bit more positive. Probably more like when to stick with architecture school. Okay, so in my architecture school, we started out with probably like 200 to 300 people when we first started, like freshman year, first day orientation. I heard the number 200 thrown around, I heard the number 300, I was never really sure. When we finally graduated, when we were down to like 30 or 40 people. I never did like the final count, so I don't know for sure, but I think it was somewhere around like 40. So 200 or 300 down to 40 is a terrible retention rate. This happens not just in my architecture college, but in like many architecture programs. So because it's like so strenuous or whatever, or people get into it and realize it's not what they thought it was, there's a pretty bad retention rate. So at any point, through your own journey through architecture school or through this career, you will probably find yourself wondering, should I even be doing this? Should I quit like everyone else? And this is something that I struggled with a fair number of times, especially in the early few years, kind of before I had really even proven to myself that like I was capable and willing and able to do all these things. But what I think was actually the best advice was something that I got from my mom. And she told me, like, she said, if you're sad about architecture and you're not like 100%, like if you're not 100% stoked about it all the time, like if you're sad about it after a bad review, then that's totally normal. That's fine. But the way that you'll know, like if you're tired of it and you're sad about it and it's time for you to move on, you'll know when you are still sad after a good review. Okay, so if you're sad after a bad review, that's totally normal, that's natural. If you devote the amount of time and effort and energy and pour that into a project the way that architecture students do, and then you come down to it and you don't really like achieve what you wanted, then it's natural that you'd be sad. Like don't look at that and think, oh, I'm sad because I had a bad review. Maybe I'm not happy in architecture and I should change majors. Like, no, if you're not happy because you committed all this time. If you committed like your entire life to like running the 100-meter dash in the Olympics, and you finally make it to the Olympics, and like partway through you trip, then you would be really freaking sad. That doesn't mean that you're going to give up running forever and never run again. Okay, that just means like you're sad because of a disappointment. Now, what happens when you finally get that success, and then you realize, oh wait, but I'm still not happy? That's when you need to move on. Now, a lot of people are going to hear this and they're going to be like, but Drew, I don't have any kind of success. Like, how am I supposed to know? And well, look, it's not about having success at the end of the whole project. Instead, it's about getting it like steps along the way. Beyond the overall arc of anybody's studio project, you're going to have little moments here or there, little successes. There's going to be like the moment when you realize what it really means to design something in section, or when you've been struggling with this model and finally you get like the entryway to look right, or you're battling it out with the plan and finally you get to the point where it makes sense. Like, no matter how small, there's going to be some point along the way where you're going to achieve some sort of success. Look at that. All right, look for those moments. And if after those moments you're still like, you're not really satisfied at all, if that's when you don't like it, then that would be when it's time to move on. But I think that a lot of times those highs are worth the lows for the sad times, the times that you're struggling. Okay, I should say that's the case if it really is for you. I noticed this is the way that it was for me. Like, there were definitely times when I was struggling with stuff. I couldn't figure out how to do this, and I'm like, man, am I dumb? Like, how do I not figure this out? And then finally, like, it starts kind of coming together, and then somewhere along the way, you kind of get on top of it. And you might not have this. I wouldn't have like the solution yet, but I would keep working at it. And when I finally figured it out, it's like the more I struggled with it, the more like down I got about it, the happier I was that I solved it. So I think that this is something that you definitely have to look out for. Then another point that I want to make is that there's a difference between giving up and letting go. All right, so there's a lot of people who go through architecture school and they struggle with it and they fight and like they get down with the downs and maybe they get excited with the excitements. But like, there are other people who they don't struggle with whether they should be here or not. They know that they don't like architecture. I know a number of people who graduated with me who knew in first and second and third year that architecture wasn't for them and it wasn't what they wanted to do, but they stuck with it because their parents told them to do it, or their parents liked it, or because they were already 2 years in, so they should like just finish it out. It's like, no, like this is your life. If you don't want to do this, you still have like hopefully 60 more years or something like after you graduate, you know, or even less, like even if you're older and going there, like if you decide that it's not for you, like there's way more to life than the 5 years ahead of you or the few years ahead of you between now and graduation. Like there's a lot of people who like they know it's not for them and they stick with it anyway. And then there's also people who they're worried about giving up, okay, and then they tell themselves like I can't quit, I can't be a quitter, and all this other like stuff, and it's like they associate it with weakness, but they shouldn't do that, because like look, there's a difference between giving up and letting go. Letting go takes some strength, especially after you've already invested a few years into something. Like to say, look, I've been doing this for 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, and say that, look, I spent a lot of time doing this and this just isn't for me and I'm gonna go do something else. Like that takes a lot of fortitude to make that decision and go execute on it. And you know, you don't go away completely empty-handed. Maybe your credits don't transfer or whatever useless crap, but like you have that experience, you know, you at least learned something in it. And it might have been that the best thing you learned was that this isn't what you want to do, but at least you learned that, you know. But anyway, that takes strength as well. And I just wanted to say that because I felt like there's a lot of people who I knew that at one point or another they felt like, oh, it would be like quitting and they shouldn't do that. But like you got to go do what you got to do. So go do that. But so like there's a lot of people who like should quit and don't. And then there's a lot of people who struggle and wonder about like, should I quit? Should I not? I don't know. Would I be happier doing something else? And like that's something that I definitely can't answer with one broad stroke video. You know, like it doesn't matter how, I can't just say something, you know, that answers everybody's question. But I think that another kind of personal advice to this would be something that I said before, which is really get in touch with what you want. Be clear with yourself about why you like architecture, what it is about this that you want, or what you want to have out of life. What does your dream day look like? You know, imagine like 10 years in the future, 20, 30 years in the future, like whatever. Figure out what that is that you actually want, and figure out how you're going to get that. And if that doesn't include architecture or design or whatever, then, you know, go do something else. Go find whatever that other thing is. So, to recap, there's a difference between giving up and letting go. And if you're not happy in architecture, if you're not happy with it after like a bad review, that's totally normal. The way that you would know if it's time for you to leave is if you're not happy after a time when you did find success. Okay, so I hope that this helps. I think this is something a lot of people struggle with at one point or another, and I can only speak for myself, but I know that for me, not quitting architecture school, you know, not that I was ever like about to go do that, but I'd be lying if I said the thought never crossed my mind, you know. Not quitting architecture school was definitely a good call. I really enjoy my life now because of the decisions that I made, because this is what I want to do, okay? And you have to find what you want to do, and if it's this, then you got to stick with it. If it's not, you got to find the strength to go find whatever that is. So I hope this helps you. Let me know if it does in the comments down below. If there's any advice you have for somebody who is questioning about whether they should change majors or change careers, you know, put that down in the comments. I want to hear about it, and I'm sure other people do as well. Other than that, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if you enjoyed it. I hope this helps, and I'll talk to you next time.